Just a translator. Those were the last words crackling through the radio before the SEAL team fell silent under the Christmas night. Snow began falling. Town lights in the distance dimmed. Each enemy marksman had locked their firing angles, waiting for the moment to finish the entire squad. She wore no combat insignia, had no official call sign, just an interpreter accompanying the mission. But when the Dragunov rifle recovered from a dead hostile chambered around, 17 snipers never got the chance to pull their triggers. The mountain ridge stretched like a frozen spine against the December sky. Snow lay thin across the rocks, not enough to muffle footsteps, but sufficient to make everything slick. Staff Sergeant Derek Lawson scanned the terrain through his NVGs, watching the thermal signatures of his team move in practiced formation. Overwatch. This is Ground 1. Approaching checkpoint Alpha. No contact. His voice was steady, professional. Behind him, 7 SEALs maintained tactical spacing as they escorted their principal, a local official whose intelligence had proven valuable enough to warrant extraction. Emma Cordell walked near the middle of the formation, her rifle slung low, radio headset slightly askew, not because she was careless, because everyone assumed she wouldn't need it positioned for immediate action. "How's our guest doing?" Lawson asked over the team channel. "Nervous but mobile," replied Petty Officer Marcus Webb. "Keeps asking how much longer. Tell him 2 hours to the LZ, weather's holding." Emma translated quietly, her Pashto flawless. The official nodded, clutching his thin jacket tighter. 2 hours, Lieutenant Grant Fisher said from point position. "Then it's beer and actual beds." His tone carried the forced lightness of men trying to ignore how exposed they were. "What about you, Cordell? Got Christmas plans?" "My sister's place in Oregon," Emma said. "Assuming we make this bird, you'll make it." Petty Officer Ryan Hayes laughed. "Easiest gig we've had in months. Relax. You're just a translator." The words hung in the cold air. Not malicious, just dismissive. A categorization. Emma had heard variations of it for 18 months now, ever since she'd declined the sniper position offered after her previous deployment ended. She didn't respond, just kept walking, eyes moving across the ridgeline in patterns the others didn't notice. Wind from the northwest, steady at 8 knots. Temperature dropping, the kind of cold that made rifle barrels contract, changed ballistics in ways most shooters forgot to account for. Specialist Connor Davis, the team medic, fell into step beside her. "Hey, you doing okay? You've been quiet." "I'm always quiet." "Yeah, but this is that. I'm analyzing something quiet." Connor had deployed with her before, back when her role had been different, he remembered. "Just cold," Emma said. It wasn't entirely a lie. Her fingers were stiff inside her gloves, and the thin jacket over her plate carrier wasn't rated for this temperature. But cold was manageable. Cold was just physics. Ahead, the trail narrowed where it cut between 2 boulder formations. Lawson raised a fist. The team halted. He scanned the choke point, helmet mounted light dark, breathing visible in small clouds. Clear. Move through, 2 at a time. They filed through the gap. Emma's eyes tracked the high ground automatically. Western Ridge would provide excellent overwatch of this position. Natural funnel, perfect ambush terrain. But the thermal scans had shown nothing, and the drone feed was clean. "Ground 1, overwatch," crackled the radio. "Drones getting some interference, nothing major, just glitches in the feed. Might be weather moving in." "Copy that. How's our corridor look?" "Still clear. No thermal signatures within 800 meters. Webb clapped his hands together for warmth. "See? Clean extract. We'll be back at base for midnight chow, maybe even catch the chaplain service." "Midnight chow sounds better than chaplain," Hayes said. "Your soul's gonna need that service, Hayes." "My soul's fine. It's my feet that are dying." The banter continued, easy and familiar. Emma listened, translating occasionally when their principal had questions, but mostly staying in that space she'd learned to occupy, present but peripheral. Competent but not threatening, just a translator. They covered another half-kilometer. The terrain opened slightly, giving them more room to maneuver but also more exposure. Fisher checked his GPS, confirmed their position. 30 minutes to secondary checkpoint, he announced. Then it's straight shot to the LZ. "Any chance the bird comes early?" Davis asked. "Not with this wind picking up. They'll want stable conditions." Emma felt it too, the wind shift. It had been steady northwest, but now it gusted. unpredictable. The kind of shift that came before weather turned serious. She glanced at the sky, clouds moving in, thick and low. Overwatch. Ground 1. Confirm weather update. Checking. Yeah, systems pushing in faster than predicted. Snow's coming. You've got maybe 90 minutes before visibility drops hard. Lawson swore quietly. Picked a hell of a night for this. It's Christmas Eve, Fisher said. Of course it's complicated. At least the bad guys are probably drinking tonight instead of patrolling, Webb offered. Let's hope. They pressed on. Emma's breath came in steady rhythm, her boots finding purchase on increasingly slippery rock. The official was struggling now, his urban shoes inadequate for this terrain. Davis moved to support him, one hand on the man's elbow. The first church bell echoed from the valley, distant, almost dreamlike. Some village marking the holy night. The sound carried strangely in the cold air, seeming closer than it should. Weird, Hayes muttered. Didn't know there were churches out here. Mixed region, Emma said. Some Orthodox communities in the valleys. You religious, Cordell? She considered the question. My grandmother was. Taught me prayers in Russian before I could write in English. Russian? I thought you were from Oregon. My grandmother was from Vladivostok. Long story. We've got time. But they didn't. Not really. Emma felt it before she understood why that animal instinct that comes from too many deployments, too many close calls. Something was wrong. The air felt different, too still despite the wind, too empty despite the bells. She opened her mouth to say something, then stopped. What would she say? That the terrain felt hostile? That the silence between radio checks was too complete? They'd call it paranoia, PTSD, translator nerves. So she stayed quiet, watching the ridgeline, counting her breaths. The snow began to fall harder. Emma had learned to see in layers. First layer, what everyone sees. The trail, the rocks, the target moving ahead. Simple geography. Second layer, what soldiers see. Cover, concealment, fields of fire, dead zones. Tactical geometry. Third layer, what snipers see. Wind indicators, thermal patterns, elevation changes measured in millimeters that turn a clean shot into a miss. The invisible architecture of distance and death. She existed in all three simultaneously now, unable to turn off the deeper vision even though she'd walked away from the role that required it. Lawson was competent, she'd assessed that within the first week. He read terrain well, positioned his team correctly, but he read it like an infantry squad leader, focused on immediate threats, close-quarter reactions. He didn't see the way the rocks created natural shooting platforms at 400 meters. Didn't notice how the sparse vegetation wouldn't screen thermal signatures effectively. Didn't register that they'd been walking through a sniper's paradise for the last 15 minutes. Stop it, she told herself. This is why you left. But her eyes kept moving. That boulder cluster on the western slope, perfect for a single shooter, good elevation, natural withdrawal route. The depression near the tree line 800 meters north. Two-man team could operate there indefinitely, covered from aerial observation. The rocky outcrop they'd passed 5 minutes ago, excellent counter-sniper position if someone were smart enough to use it. You good? Connor asked again, closer this time, his medic's instinct for distress. Fine. You're doing that thing with your jaw, the muscle twitch. She forced herself to relax. Just cold. It's more than cold. Connor's voice dropped lower. I know you walked away from it. But I also know that doesn't just turn off. Emma met his eyes briefly. Connor had been there, in Afghanistan, when she'd made her decision, when the mission had gone sideways and she'd had to put rounds through 3 insurgents who'd gotten too close to their hide site, close enough to see their faces, young faces, younger than they should have been. She'd taken the shots without hesitation, because hesitation meant her spotter died, but afterward, staring at those bodies. I chose translator work for a reason, she said quietly. I know. I respect that. But if you're seeing something, I'm seeing what I always see. Doesn't mean it's real. Connor nodded slowly. Okay, but if that changes... He didn't finish. Didn't need to. The formation adjusted as they navigated a steeper section. Emma found herself closer to their principal, who was breathing hard now, fear and exertion combining. She murmured reassurances in Pashti, kept her tone calm. This part she was good at: the human connection, the bridge between languages and cultures. Hayes glanced back. He gonna make it? He'll make it, Emma confirmed. Good. Because I'm not carrying anyone. You'd carry him if ordered, Fisher said. Yeah, but I'd complain the whole time. More banter, more forced lightness. Emma had learned to read that too, the way teams used humor to metabolize stress, to create normalcy in abnormal circumstances. It was healthy, necessary. But sometimes it also created complacency. The radio crackled. Ground 1, Overwatch. Still clear on thermals. Weather's definitely moving in though. Recommend increased pace if possible. Copy. We're moving as fast as terrain allows. Emma studied the clouds. Thick. The kind that would turn this entire operation into a nightmare if they got stuck out here. But they wouldn't. 90 minutes to the LZ. Helicopter already spinning up at base. Routine extract. Except nothing about the terrain felt routine. She'd qualified expert marksman at age 19. In a high school JROTC program her grandmother had insisted she join. You have talent, the instructor had said, watching her group shots at 300 meters. Natural breath control. The Army had refined that talent, turned it into something surgical. Sniper school at 22, top of her class. Deployments after that, each one burning certain images deeper into memory. The math of windage and elevation becoming instinctive. The weight of the rifle feeling like an extension of her body. Then the weight had become too much. What made you switch? Hayes had asked her once, months ago, during a long transport. Needed a change, she'd said. Not quite lying, not quite truthful. The real answer was complicated. It involved a 14-year-old boy carrying ammunition for insurgents, and the split-second decision about whether that made him a combatant, and the 2 weeks afterward when she couldn't sleep without seeing his face. She'd taken the shot. Command had backed her decision, but something inside had cracked. So she'd moved lateral, used her language skills, her cultural knowledge, became the person who translated instead of terminated. Let someone else carry the scope, the rangefinder, the burden of precise death. Most days, it was the right choice. Today, walking through perfect ambush terrain with a team that trusted her but didn't expect her to fight, today felt different. The wind gusted again, stronger now. Snow swirled, reducing visibility. Emma's fingers flexed inside her gloves, muscle memory checking for a rifle she wasn't carrying not the way she used to. Her M4 was slung for movement, not engagement. Translator loadout. Light and non-threatening. A stone shifted under her boot. She caught herself, adjusted, kept moving. Watched the ridgeline, watched the shadows between rocks, watched the spaces where death could hide and wait. Just a translator, she reminded herself. But her grandmother's voice echoed in memory, mixing Russian and English the way she always had. Tools do not forget their purpose, Malenka. You can set down the rifle, but the rifle never sets you down. The crack didn't sound like movies made it seem. It was sharper, cleaner. The supersonic snap of a bullet passing within inches, followed by the distant boom of the discharge. Lawson's helmet sprouted a fresh crease as he dropped instinctively, the round missing his skull by millimeters. Contact, sniper. The team scattered, pure training. Hayes dove behind a boulder. Fisher rolled left into a depression. Webb pulled their principal down, covered him with his own body. Connor pressed against a rock face, already pulling his aid bag around. Emma didn't dive. She transitioned smooth, practiced, the muscle memory that never truly faded. Down to one knee behind cover. Rifle up, scanning for muzzle flash, calculating range and direction from sound delay. Northwest, 400 meters, maybe 450. Single shot, no follow-up. Professional. Overwatch, ground 1, taking sniper fire. Western Ridge, approximately 450 meters, single shooter. The radio crackled back, static heavy. Say again. Ground 1, you're breaking up. Sniper contact, we need. The transmission died. Complete radio silence. Shit, Lawson hissed. They're jamming us. He tried his backup radio, nothing. Drone's probably blind too. Another shot. This one hit the rock near Fisher's position, sending stone chips flying. The lieutenant swore, pressed tighter against cover. No follow-up. Emma's mind processed automatically. Shooters picking high-value targets. Went for team leader first, now the officer. Methodical, patient. Not firing at easy targets, waiting for important ones to expose themselves. Multiple shooters? Had to be. One marksman couldn't lock down this much terrain alone. Anyone got eyes on the shooter? Lawson called. Negative. Came back from multiple positions. Cordell? Northwest Ridge, Emma said, her voice steady despite her heart hammering. Single-shot discipline, professional spacing between rounds. There's more than one. How many? She scanned the terrain, calculating fields of fire, overlapping coverage zones. At least 4, probably more. They've got us in a complex ambush. Silence on the team channel. Then Hayes. How the hell do you know that? Because if it was just one shooter, we'd all be dead already. Another shot. This one hit Webb's pack, punching through but missing his body. He grunted, checked himself, found no blood. They're not aiming center mass, Emma continued, still scanning. They're pinning us, waiting for us to panic and break cover. Outstanding observation, Fisher snapped. Now how do we get out of this? Lawson tried the radio again. Still nothing. He cursed, assessed their position. They were in a natural kill zone, limited cover, multiple elevated positions around them. No good withdrawal route. Davis, check casualties. Lawson's got a close call, minor scalp laceration from rock fragments. Webb's pack took a hit. Everyone else good so far. So far, Hayes muttered. Another shot. Then another, both hitting near positions but not connecting. The pattern was clear. Now contain and control, not kill. Yet. Why aren't they finishing this? Webb asked. Emma knew why. They're waiting for something. Maybe reinforcements. Maybe they want us alive for interrogation. She paused. Or they're just that confident they can take us whenever they want. Jesus Christ, someone whispered. Lawson's face was grim. Options. Talk to me. We can't stay here, Fisher said. We're sitting ducks. Can't move either. The second we break cover. A shot proved his point, kicking up snow inches from where Connor's boot was visible. They've got thermal, Emma said. They can see us even with the weather moving in. Night vision plus thermal plus elevated positions. They own this terrain. Then what do we do? The question hung in the freezing air. Emma watched the ridgeline, counting potential positions, calculating angles. Her mind was working in that old way. The way she'd tried to leave behind, seeing the battlefield as a three-dimensional puzzle of probability and death. She spotted the body. Enemy combatant, 15 meters ahead, partially concealed behind rocks. Fresh kill. Lawson must have hit him in the initial exchange without realizing. The body was sprawled awkwardly, one arm extended, and underneath that arm, the distinct profile of a Dragunov sniper rifle. Emma's breath caught. She knew that weapon intimately, had trained on captured models, knew its 3.5-7x scope, its 7.62x54R round, its effective range of 800 meters in skilled hands. Knew its weaknesses too, the slightly heavier trigger pull, the particular way Soviet-era optics gathered frost in conditions like this. There's a hostile body at our 10 o'clock, she said quietly. He's got a Dragunov. So? Hayes asked. So, that's a precision weapon. And it's just sitting there. Cordell. Lawson's voice carried a warning. Whatever you're thinking, we can't call for help. We can't move. They're just going to pin us here until we're hypothermic or until more of them arrive. We need to disrupt their plan. With what? We don't have a counter-sniper rifle. We've got infantry weapons. No, Emma said quietly. You don't have a counter-sniper rifle. The implications settled over the team. Fisher spoke first. You're not a sniper anymore, Cordell. You made that clear. You're a translator. I know what I am. Do you? Connor asked softly. Because right now, another shot. This one hit close to their principal, who screamed, covering his head. Webb tried to calm him, but the man was breaking down. They're tightening the noose, Emma said. Another 5 minutes and someone's going to catch a round. Then Davis is exposed, trying to treat them, and they'll get him too. This is basic. This is how you break a pinned unit. Lawson met her eyes. Even if you could get to that rifle, I can get to it. Even if you could, you haven't done this in 18 months. You're cold. You're unfamiliar with that specific weapon. And there are at least 4 highly trained marksmen out there who'll be targeting anyone stupid enough to move. I know. So you'd be committing suicide for a maybe. Emma looked at the Dragunov again. 15 meters. Might as well be 15 miles with that much hostile fire coverage. But the alternative was waiting here, while their position became increasingly untenable. She'd walked away from this, made a choice, chosen peace over precision death. But the rifle hadn't walked away from her. 30 seconds, she said. That's all I need. 30 seconds of covering fire, then everyone stays down and doesn't move. Cordell. You have a better idea, Sergeant? Lawson didn't. None of them did. Emma could see it in their faces, the recognition that they were out of options, that sometimes the only choice was between certain failure and probable death. This is insane, Fisher said. Yes, Emma agreed. Another shot hit near Hayes, who flinched despite himself. Lawson stared at her for a long moment. Then he keyed his throat mic. All positions, prepare to lay down, suppressing fire on the western ridge on my mark. Cordell's moving to acquire hostile weapon. You sure about this, Sarge? Webb asked. No. But she is. Lawson looked at Emma. Don't make me regret this. If I screw up, you won't have time for regrets. She checked her rifle, made sure it was secured across her back, rolled her shoulders, loosened cold muscles, breathed deep, oxygenating blood, slowing her heart rate despite the adrenaline. Just another movement drill, she told herself. Just another target. No. This wasn't training. This was 7 men depending on her being someone she'd said she'd never be again. Ready? She said. Lawson counted down. 3, 2, 1. Mark. The team opened fire, pouring rounds toward the western ridge. Not aimed fire, just volume, forcing the enemy shooters to take cover, disrupting their carefully constructed fields of fire. Emma moved. She covered the 15 meters in a low sprint, using every scrap of cover, her body remembering how to move under fire even as her mind screamed at the exposure. Rounds cracked overhead, some from her team's suppression, others from hostiles adjusting to the new threat. A bullet hit inches from her right boot. She pivoted, kept moving. 10 meters. Hayes was screaming something, probably telling her to get down, to abort, that this was suicide. But his voice was just noise now, background data her brain processed and dismissed. 5 meters. She dove the last distance, sliding on snow-slick rock, feeling the impact jar through her body as she fetched up against the dead hostile's position. The Dragunov was right there, still clutched in dead fingers. Cordell, get back here! That was Lawson, his command voice cracking with something that might have been fear. Emma ignored him. She pried the rifle from the corpse's grip. Rigor hadn't set in yet, muscles still flexible. Checked the weapon with hands that moved on autopilot. Magazine seated, round chambered, safety off. The scope had minor frost buildup but was still functional. Covering fire. Cease, Lawson ordered. The suppression stopped. Cordell, you made your point. Now, get back. Negative, Emma said, pressing her eye to the scope. The world compressed to circles and reticles. Everybody stay down, don't move, don't speak unless it's critical. Cordell. That includes you, Sergeant. The scope's magnification revealed what naked eyes couldn't. Enemy positions that had been invisible were now clear. There. Western ridge. 430 meters. Thermal wrap partially concealing a shooter, but the barrel silhouette gave him away. There. Northern tree line. 510 meters. 2-man team. Good concealment, but the spotter had moved slightly, created a gap in their hide. There. Rocky outcrop. 380 meters. Single shooter, excellent position, but he'd gotten comfortable. Let his weapon extend slightly beyond cover. Emma's breathing steadied. Her heart rate dropped. The cold receded. There was only the scope, the calculation, the invisible geometry, connecting her position to theirs. Wind from northwest, gusting 8 to 12 knots. Temperature dropping, maybe 28 degrees Fahrenheit. Snow beginning to affect visibility, but not critical yet. Altitude, 7,000 feet, adjust for thinner air. The Dragunov felt foreign in her hands, heavier than her standard weapon. The balance slightly different. But it was still a precision rifle, still governed by the same physics, the same mathematics of trajectory and time. Cordell, Fisher whispered urgently. What are you doing? My job, she said quietly. Your job is to translate. Right now, my job is to make sure you survive Christmas. She found the first target again. Range, 430 meters. Wind, 10 knots, northwest, elevation angle, -6 degrees. The Dragunov scope had mil dots, familiar enough. She made micro adjustments, feeling the rifle settle into the pocket of her shoulder. This was the moment she'd been avoiding for 18 months. The moment when the math resolved into a human life, when the calculation became consequence. Her finger found the trigger. The pull was heavier than she'd expected, typical Soviet manufacture. She adjusted her pressure, found the break point. "Translator, stay down," Hayes hissed. "You're exposing." 30 seconds, Emma said. "Then this is over." She couldn't see their faces, but she could feel their reactions, confusion, fear, maybe respect starting to kindle. They didn't understand yet. They still saw the translator, not the tool she'd spent years becoming. They were about to learn the difference. Emma's finger tightened on the trigger. The hostile in her scope had no idea. He was focused on the position where she'd been, waiting for another target to expose themselves. He never saw it coming. The first round broke clean. Recoil punched her shoulder familiar, almost welcome. Emma didn't watch the impact. She was already adjusting, cycling to the next target, hands moving through the bolt action's mechanics without conscious thought. 430 meters, center mass, drop. Working the bolt. Ejected brass clinking on rock. 510 meters. The spotter first take out the team's eyes. The shooter becomes isolated. Adjust for wind. Adjust for distance. Breathe. Drop. The shooter reacted, tried to relocate. Too slow. Emma had already calculated his probable movement, led the target by 3 feet. Drop. Jesus Christ, someone whispered behind her. Might have been Connor. Might have been any of them. Emma blocked it out. There was only the scope, the breathing, the eternal present tense of precision fire. 380 meters. Rocky outcrop. The hostile there was better trained. He'd registered the change in situation, was pulling back. But withdrawal means movement, and movement means exposure. She caught him mid-transition. Drop. The math was beautiful in its simplicity. Range plus wind plus temperature plus angle equals solution. Human life reduced to ballistic coefficient. She'd loved it once, that clarity. Then she'd hated it. Now she just accepted it. Northern position, secondary ridge. 800 meters. Extreme range for the Dragunov, but possible. The hostile there was staying put. Thinking distance meant safety. Emma adjusted for the maximum elevation. The round would arc high, drop steep. She'd need to account for the snow's effect on air density, the way cold affected powder burn. Breathe. Hold. Squeeze. The longest 4 seconds of flight time. Drop. She'd made 5 shots in roughly 40 seconds. The enemy's coordinated ambush was collapsing, but Emma's mind was already moving ahead, calculating the counter-response. They'd realize now. They'd shift tactics. There. Eastern approach. 600 meters. Hostile relocating, trying to flank. He thought he was hidden by the weather. He was wrong. Drop. The radio, still jammed, suddenly crackled with frantic chatter. Enemy frequency. In Pashto, Emma translated automatically even while acquiring her next target. Taking fire, sniper, unknown position. Pulled back. 3 dead, maybe 4. Where is she? She. They'd identified her. Good. Let them know. 720 meters. High ground, good cover. But the hostile there made the mistake of trying to acquire her position. His scope caught a glint of snow-reflected light. Drop. The Dragunov was running hot now, the barrel's heat visible in the scope's thermal gradient. Emma ignored it, cycled another round, kept scanning. Southern perimeter. Twin positions. 400 meters. Mutual support. Take the left one first. Better angle on her team's location. Drop. The right side shooter broke discipline, tried to run. Bad choice. Running targets are actually easier. Their movement becomes predictable, rhythm-based. Drop. 9 down. Emma's shoulders ached from holding the firing position. Her fingers were numb despite the gloves. The cold was seeping back in now. Adrenaline no longer sufficient insulation. Keep moving. Keep scanning. Northern tree line. Secondary position. 630 meters. Hostile was smart. Stayed low. Minimal movement. But he'd chosen concealment over cover. Hiding behind brush that would stop vision, but not bullets. Drop. The church bells rang again, distant and surreal. How much time had passed? Minutes? Hours? In the scope's circle, time became fluid, measured only in target acquisition and engagement windows. Eastern Ridge. 540 meters. The hostile there was very good. He'd found a position with overhead cover, used the rocks to maximum advantage. Emma could only see the smallest sliver of his position. She waited. Patience was part of the craft. Rushed shots were missed shots. The hostile shifted. Just inches. Enough. Drop. 11. Her grandmother's voice echoed in memory. A lesson from childhood. When you pick up a tool, Malenka, you must respect what it does. Hammer does not become scissors. Rifle does not become flour. Emma had tried to make the rifle become something else. Had tried to transform its purpose through will and distance. But physics didn't care about intent. Trajectories didn't care about guilt. The rifle was what it was, and so was she. Scanning, western approach, behind the initial positions. 850 meters, absolute maximum effective range. Hostile in partial defilade, only head and shoulders visible. This shot was barely possible. Wind at this distance would push the round significantly. The cold would affect velocity. The angle was terrible. Emma made the adjustments anyway. Held high, held left. Accounted for the snow, the wind, the way her hands were starting to shake. Squeezed. 4.3 seconds of flight time. An eternity. Enough time to doubt every variable, question every calculation. Drop. 12. How? That was Hayes, his voice barely audible. How is she doing this? Emma didn't answer. She was already moving, already scanning for the next threat. The enemy's radio chatter had gone from frantic to panicked to sparse. They were pulling back, breaking contact, but there were more. There had to be more. Northern approach, new angle, 700 meters. Hostile trying to use the weather as cover, moving between positions. Drop. 13. Eastern Ridge, secondary position, 490 meters. This hostile had training. His discipline was excellent, his movement economical, but he made the fundamental mistake of choosing the same hide she would have chosen, which meant she knew exactly where to aim. Drop. 14. The magazine was running low. Emma checked without looking away from the scope. 2 rounds left, maybe 3. The Dragunov's magazine capacity was 10, and she'd started with a partial load from the dead hostile. Southern perimeter, extreme flank, 820 meters. Hostile trying to establish a new position, thinking distance would save him. Drop. 15. 1 round left. The radio crackled again. Different voice this time. Command authority. Retreat. All units, withdraw. Mission is compromised. Acknowledge. Various voices confirmed. The enemy was breaking contact completely, abandoning the ambush. But one signature remained. Northern Ridge, 660 meters, prime position. The hostile there wasn't moving. Either he hadn't gotten the order, or he was the commander who'd given it and was staying to cover the withdrawal. Emma calculated. Wind stronger now, snow thicker, visibility degrading. The target was barely visible through the scope, just a thermal shape, indistinct. This was the shot that mattered. The one that would ensure the enemy couldn't reorganize, couldn't come back before the team could exfiltrate. She made the adjustments. Held for wind, held for snow, held for every variable that could turn a perfect solution into a miss. The church bells were still ringing. Someone in that distant village was celebrating the holy night, completely unaware that 17 men were dying in the mountains above. Emma squeezed the trigger. The Dragunov's final round left the barrel at 840 meters per second. It traveled through falling snow, through gusting wind, through 660 meters of frozen air, until it found its mark. Drop. 16. She scanned for other targets. Found none. The thermal signatures were withdrawing, moving fast, no longer controlled or tactical. They were running. Emma lowered the rifle. Her hands were shaking now, cold. Adrenaline crash, muscle fatigue. She checked the magazine. Empty. She'd fired every round the dead hostile had left her. The radio crackled one final time. Target eliminated. Whoever she is, Allah preserve us. Then silence. Emma set the Dragunov down gently, reverently. It had done its job, she'd done hers. Behind her, she could hear the team starting to move, to process what had just happened, but she couldn't look at them yet, couldn't face what she'd just become again. The snow fell harder, beginning to cover the brass casings scattered around her position. Nature reclaiming evidence, making it clean. But nothing would make this clean. 17 targets, 17 solutions, 17 men who would never see another Christmas. Emma closed her eyes, but the sight picture remained perfect circles, perfect crosshairs, perfect mathematical certainty. The rifle never forgets. Neither would she. The silence lasted exactly 14 seconds. Emma counted them, her internal clock still running on combat time, measuring the space between the last shot and the moment when reality would crash back in. 14 seconds of pure quiet, broken only by wind and falling snow and the distant bells that kept ringing like the universe hadn't just shifted. Then Hayes spoke. "Who the hell is she?" The question came out as a whisper, almost reverent. Emma heard boots scuffing on rock, someone moving, the discipline breaking as the team processed what they'd witnessed. Cordell. That was Lawson, his squad leader voice trying for authority but landing somewhere closer to shock. Cordell. What? How? Emma still couldn't turn around. She kept her eyes on the scope, on the empty magazine, on the rifle that had become an extension of her nervous system for 23 minutes and was now just cold metal again. Her hands were shaking badly now. The adrenaline was crashing, leaving her fingers numb and clumsy. She tried to engage the Dragunov's safety, fumbled it twice before succeeding. Jesus. Fisher had moved closer, was staring at the scattered brass, the weapon. Her. I counted 16 shots. 16. 17. Emma corrected quietly. Her voice sounded distant to her own ears. The first hostile. Lawson got him in the initial contact. 17. Fisher seemed to be testing the word. 17? Confirmed? Yes. How do you know they're confirmed? You didn't even check. They're confirmed. The certainty in her voice must have communicated something, because Fisher stopped talking. Emma could feel his stare, feel all their stares, but she still couldn't meet their eyes. Connor moved into her peripheral vision, his medic instincts overriding shock. You're shaking. Hypothermia? No, just cold. Let me check. I'm fine, Connor. But she wasn't fine. Her core temperature was dropping, yes. But that wasn't why she was shaking. The shaking came from somewhere deeper, from the place where 18 months of choosing peace had just been overwritten by 23 minutes of choosing violence. Webb's voice, still covering their principal. The radio's clearing up. Jamming stopped. Because their command element is dead, Emma said. She finally looked up, met Lawson's eyes. Target 16, Northern Ridge. He was running the operation. You could tell that from 600 meters? His position, his discipline, the way the others were oriented toward him, and the fact that the retreat order came from his location. Emma's tactical brain was still running, still processing, even though she wanted it to stop. They're scattered now. No coordination. We need to move while we have the advantage. Advantage? Hayes laughed, slightly hysterical. She just killed 17 people in the time it takes to 23 minutes, Emma said. First shot to last. 23 minutes. The precision of the answer seemed to unsettle them more than anything else. Hayes stopped talking. Lawson tried the radio. Overwatch, Ground 1. Do you copy? Static then, Ground 1. Overwatch, we just got you back. Status report, we lost your thermals. Thought you were. We're operational. Enemy contact, multiple hostiles, successfully repelled. Need immediate extract. Over. Copy that. What happened? Thermals showed. Debrief later. How fast can we get that bird? Weather's marginal, but we can push it. 20 minutes to your position. Copy. Ground. 1 out. Lawson turned to Emma. She was standing now, had retrieved her M4, was checking it with mechanical efficiency even though it hadn't been fired. Anything to keep her hands busy, to not think about what they'd just done. Cordell. Lawson's voice was different now. Not quite respect, not quite fear. Something in between. We need to talk about. No. Emma's voice came out harder than intended. We need to move to the LZ. That's what we need to do. But they're scattered, Sergeant, not gone. They could reorganize. They could call in reinforcements. We have a 20-minute window. I suggest we use it. It was the right tactical answer, and Lawson knew it. He hesitated, clearly wanting to address what had just happened, but mission discipline won out. All right, Fisher, take point. Webb, stay with our principal. Hayes, Davis, rear security. We move fast and quiet. What about her? Hayes asked, nodding at Emma. She, Lawson paused, seemed to recalibrate something. She takes overwatch position in the middle of the formation. Not front, not rear, middle, protected position. The placement told Emma everything. They didn't know what to do with her now, how to categorize this new version of the translator who just decapitated an ambush. Emma didn't argue. She slung her M4, left the Dragunov where it lay. Someone would recover it later for intelligence purposes, or the snow would bury it. Either way, it wasn't hers to carry. They formed up. Their principal was crying now, relief, shock, fear, all mixed together. Emma murmured, something soothing in Pashto, helped Webb get him moving. The man looked at her with new eyes, recognition shifting. You saved us, he said in broken English. Emma didn't respond. They moved. The terrain that had been a killing ground minutes ago was just terrain again. The rocks were just rocks. The elevation was just numbers. Emma's sniper vision faded, leaving her with normal sight adequate but somehow insufficient after the hyperclarity of the scope. Connor fell into step beside her, not speaking but present. His shoulder brushed hers, deliberate contact, grounding. I'm okay, Emma said. I know. I'm checking anyway. His medic's eye scanned her, looking for shock, dissociation, the 1,000-yard stare that sometimes followed extreme combat. Talk to me. Nothing to talk about. Emma. 23 minutes, Connor. I was someone else for 23 minutes. Now I'm back. That's all. But it wasn't all, and they both knew it. You don't compartmentalize 17 lives that easily. You don't kill with that precision, that efficiency, without something changing inside. When we get back, Connor said quietly, you should talk to someone. Mental health, chaplain, whoever. I will. You're lying. Yes. He didn't push further, just stayed close, present without demanding. They covered ground fast, the team moving with renewed urgency. Everyone kept glancing at Emma, quick looks, assessing, trying to reconcile the quiet translator they'd known with the woman who'd systematically destroyed an ambush. Fisher keyed his radio. Ground 1, all positions. We're approaching the LZ. Overwatch. Confirm the birds incoming. Affirmative. Ground 1. Helicopters 4 minutes out. LZ is cold. Copy. The landing zone appeared through the snow, a flat area, barely large enough for the helo. They established a perimeter, everyone taking firing positions except Emma, who stood in the center with their principal, still in her assigned role. Just the translator. The sound of rotors grew louder. Landing lights pierced the snow, and then the UH-60 was touching down, crew chief waving them aboard. They loaded quickly, Fisher and Webb first with the principal, then Davis with the medical gear, Hayes covering until everyone was in, Lawson last after a final check of the perimeter. Emma found a seat, buckled in, stared at the floor of the helicopter. The vibration of the engines traveled through her body, jarring and loud and real. They were airborne. The mountain fell away below them, all its dead angles and perfect shooting positions becoming irrelevant with altitude. Someone handed her a thermal blanket. Emma wrapped it around herself, felt the heat seeping in, uncomfortable after the cold. Hayes was across from her, still staring. She met his eyes finally, held the gaze until he looked away. Anyone else hit? She asked over the helicopter's noise. Just Lawson's scalp, already treated, Connor called back. Emma nodded. Mission success then. Principal extracted, team intact, enemy neutralized. All the boxes checked. Lawson made his way over the helicopter's deck, crouched beside her seat. He had to lean in close to be heard over the engines. When we land, he said, there's going to be questions. A lot of questions. I know. What should I tell them? Emma considered. What was the truth? That a translator had picked up an enemy weapon and eliminated 17 hostiles with precision that would make trained snipers jealous? That she'd done it in 23 minutes? In degrading weather? With unfamiliar equipment? That she'd been exactly who she'd tried not to be anymore? Tell them, Emma said finally, that I provided fire support when required. Fire support. Lawson's expression was unreadable. That's what you're calling it? What else would you call it? I don't know. Miracle? Impossibility? He paused. Truth? Emma looked past him, out the helicopter's open door at the mountains receding behind them. Somewhere down there, 17 men weren't going home for Christmas. 17 families would get notifications. 17 absences at 17 tables. She'd done that, made those calculations, chosen those solutions. The truth, she said quietly, is that I'm still just a translator. Today was an exception. Lawson studied her face, seemed about to argue, then just nodded slowly. Okay, if that's how you want to play it, that's how it has to be played. He moved away, returned to his seat. Emma pulled the thermal blanket tighter, but it didn't help. The cold was internal now, settled into her bones, her blood, the space behind her eyes, where 17 sight pictures were already burning themselves into permanent memory. The church bells were still ringing when the helicopter banked toward base. Christmas Eve. Silent night. Holy night. All was calm. All was bright. Emma closed her eyes, but the scope's reticle remained perfectly centered, perfectly calibrated, perfect and terrible and true. The rifle never forgets. Neither would they. The helicopter touched down at 0147 hours. Christmas Day. Emma was the last one off, moving with deliberate slowness, her legs uncertain after the adrenaline crash. The base was minimal, just prefabricated buildings, a fuel depot, and the Tactical Operations Center with its satellite arrays pointed at the sky. Lawson went straight to debriefing. Fisher followed. The rest of the team dispersed to gear storage, chow hall, anywhere but here. Only Connor stayed, hovering at a respectful distance while Emma stood on the tarmac, watching the helicopter's blades slow. You need to get inside, he said. Core temp check, warm food, rest. In a minute, Emma. I said in a minute. Connor fell silent, but didn't leave. Emma was grateful for that, the presence without pressure. She needed to transition, to shed the last 18 months in reverse, to figure out how to walk back into the person she'd been before tonight. If that person even existed anymore. You know they're going to want details, Connor said finally. Shot placement, timing, methodology. They'll want to understand how you did it. I know. You going to tell them? Emma considered. How do you explain that the math never left? That muscle memory lives deeper than choice? That when the scope found her eye, it felt like coming home to a house she'd burned down deliberately? I'll tell them what they need to know. That's not what I asked. She looked at him then, really looked. Connor had been there for the before when she'd been scout sniper Emma Cordell, callsign Longshot, known for impossible shots and unshakable calm. And he'd been there for the after when she'd turned in her scope, requested transfer, become the translator who never mentioned her previous role. He was the only one who'd seen both versions. What do you want me to say, Connor? That it felt good? It didn't. That I hesitated? I couldn't afford to. That I'm going to process this trauma and heal and never touch a rifle again? She turned back to the helicopter. I'm the same person I was this morning, just colder. No, you're not the same person. His voice was gentle but firm. You think you can just flip the switch back off? That's not how this works. It has to work that way. Why? Because I chose, Emma wanted to say. Because I decided that precision death wasn't who I wanted to be. Because I looked at that 14-year-old boy's face and decided never again. But tonight, she'd looked through that scope 17 times, and each time she'd made the same choice, their life or my team's safety. And each time, the choice had been immediate, clean, final, no hesitation. Maybe that was what scared her most. I need to debrief, Emma said, moving toward the TOC. Are you coming? Connor followed. The Tactical Operations Center was warm, bright, and antiseptically clean, the opposite of the frozen mountain. Maps covered the walls, digital displays showing real-time intelligence feeds, and a dozen personnel working through the night. Captain Rebecca Morse looked up from a tactical display when Emma entered. She was intelligence officer, mid-30s, with the sharp eyes of someone who'd been reading classified reports for hours. Cordell, Lawson's already briefed me on the broad strokes. I need your version. Where's the team? Fisher's with the principal, getting his statement. The rest are being debriefed separately. Standard protocol. Morse gestured to a chair. Sit. You look like you're about to fall over. Emma sat. Connor took position near the door, close enough to observe, far enough to not intrude. Morse pulled up a tablet, started recording. This is Captain Rebecca Morse conducting post-action interview with civilian contractor Emma Cordell, December 25th, 0200 hours. Cordell, do you consent to this interview? Yes. Good. Walk me through what happened after radio contact was lost. Emma recited the facts. Hostile ambush, multiple sniper positions, team pinned, no communication with Overwatch. She kept her voice flat, professional, stripping emotion from the narrative. At what point did you decide to engage? Morse asked. When it became clear that waiting wasn't viable. The hostiles had us in a complex ambush with overlapping fields of fire. Without counter-sniper capability, we were going to take casualties. And you determined you had counter-sniper capability? Emma met her eyes. I determined that there was an enemy precision rifle within reach and that I had the skills to employ it effectively. Skills. Morse consulted her tablet. Your file lists your current position as translator and cultural advisor. Previous role. Oh, she looked up. Scout sniper. Distinguished graduate. Sniper school. 18 confirmed kills over 4 deployments before requesting lateral transfer 18 months ago. Yes, ma'am. Why'd you switch? Personal reasons. I'm going to need more than that, Cordell. Emma's jaw tightened. I chose a path that involved fewer instances of killing people. Tonight was an exception to that choice. Quite an exception. Morse scrolled through her tablet. Overwatch got thermals back right before extract. They counted thermal signatures in your zone. 17 hostiles down, 16 within 10 minutes of the last confirmed radio traffic. That's not just exception, that's surgical. I did what was necessary to protect my team. Walk me through your shot selection. Lawson says you prioritized command and control first, then flanking positions. That's textbook counter-ambush. Where'd you learn that? Sniper school. 18 months ago. Muscle memory doesn't expire, ma'am. Morse leaned back, studying Emma with open curiosity. I've read after-action reports from a lot of snipers, Cordell. Most of them talk about the stress, the weight, the psychological cost of precision targeting. You sound like you're reciting range scores. Would you prefer me to be more emotional? I'd prefer you to be honest. The word hung in the air. Emma felt Connor shift slightly behind her support without intervention. I'm being honest, Emma said quietly. I engaged 17 hostiles with a captured weapon in suboptimal conditions because the alternative was watching my team die. I took the shots I could make with the highest probability of success. I eliminated threats until no threats remained. She paused. And now I'd like to go back to being a translator. Just like that? Just like that. Morse set down her tablet. You know that's not going to happen. You just demonstrated capability that the teams need desperately. We're short on qualified snipers, especially ones who can operate in this theater and speak the languages. You're a unicorn, Cordell. I'm not interested. I haven't made an offer yet. Whatever you're about to offer, I'm declining. Don't you want to hear? No. Emma's voice came out harder than intended. Ma'am, with respect, I made my choice 18 months ago. Tonight doesn't change that. Tonight changes everything. For you, maybe. Not for me. Morse studied her for a long moment, then sighed. All right. We'll table it for now. But this conversation isn't over, Cordell. You saved 7 men tonight. That matters. I know it matters. That's why I did it. Then help me understand why you're so insistent on walking away from something you're clearly exceptional at. Emma stood, the interview clearly over in her mind if not officially. Because being exceptional at killing people isn't the same as being proud of it. May I be excused, ma'am? Morse waved her hand. Get some food. Get warm. We'll debrief more tomorrow. Emma saluted and left, Connor following. Once outside, the cold air hit like a slap, welcome and clarifying. That went well, Connor said dryly. She's going to push. Of course she is. You just proved you're one of the best counter-snipers in theater. They'd be idiots not to try to recruit you back. I don't want to be recruited back. I know. But Emma, Connor moved in front of her, made her look at him. You can't just pretend tonight didn't happen. You can't compartmentalize 17 lives and go back to translating requisition forms. Watch me. That's not healthy. Healthy isn't the goal. Functional is. Connor opened his mouth to argue, then stopped. They'd had this conversation before, in different forms, and he knew when he was hitting a wall. "At least eat something," he said finally, "and let me check your core temp." They walked toward the medical facility, passing knots of personnel who were either heading to Christmas services or coming off shift. Emma heard fragments of conversation, mission debrief, weather reports, someone complaining about the Chow Hall's attempt at turkey dinner. Normal. Everything was supposed to be normal now, but she could still feel the Dragunov's recoil in her shoulder, could still see the sight picture of each shot, could still hear the distant church bells mixing with the crack of precision fire. The rifle never forgets. And neither would anyone who'd been on that mountain tonight. Connor cleared her medically at 0300 hours, mild hypothermia, minor dehydration, no significant injuries. Emma ate in silence in the empty chow hall. Reheated pasta, bread that was more texture than flavor, coffee that tasted like punishment. She was on her third cup when Hayes found her. He stood in the doorway for a moment, uncertain, then approached with the careful steps of someone approaching something dangerous. He sat across from her without asking permission. "Couldn't sleep," he said. Emma nodded. Neither could she, clearly. "That thing you did," Hayes started, then stopped. Started again. "I've been in some shit, you know, Fallujah, Marja, places that don't make the news. Seen some incredible shooting, but that," he shook his head. "That was different." Emma said nothing. "I owe you an apology," Hayes continued. "That crack I made. Just a translator. I was wrong. About a lot of things." "You weren't wrong. I am a translator. Not just a translator." Emma met his eyes. "That's exactly what I am. Tonight was an exception. Tomorrow I go back to my actual job. How can you, after what you did, how can you just..." "Because it's what I chose, Hayes. I chose to walk away from that role. One bad night doesn't undo 18 months of commitment to a different path." Hayes studied her face, looking for something. "You regret it? The shots? Did she?" Emma turned the question over in her mind. She regretted the necessity, regretted that 17 people had to die, but the shots themselves? "No," she said quietly. "I don't regret protecting the team, but I can not regret something and still not want to do it again." "That's..." Hayes struggled for words. "That's really mature, actually. Or really damaged. Hard to tell sometimes." He laughed short, surprised. "Yeah, fair." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Hayes stood, started to leave, paused. "For what it's worth," he said, "I'm glad you were there tonight. And I'm sorry for not seeing you before." He hesitated. "But I see you now." After he left, Emma sat alone with her coffee, watching steam rise in the fluorescent light. One by one, the rest of the team found her web with a quiet nod of respect. Fisher with an awkward attempt at thanks, Davis with medical forms she needed to sign. Lawson came last, at 0430, just as false dawn was starting to gray the windows. "Can't sleep either?" he asked. "Apparently not." He poured himself coffee, sat down heavily. "I've been writing the after-action report, trying to figure out how to describe what happened without making it sound like fiction. Keep it simple. Enemy ambush, team responded, situation resolved." "You want me to leave you out of the report?" Emma considered. "No, that wouldn't be honest. Just keep it professional, no embellishment." Hard to embellish something that's already unbelievable. Lawson drank his coffee, grimaced at the taste. "Morse is going to keep pushing, you know. She's already talking to higher command. You demonstrated capabilities they need. I don't care what they need. You should. Because they're going to make it very appealing to stay. Let them try." Lawson set down his cup, leaned forward. "Why? Help me understand, Cordell. Why is it so important to walk away from something you're clearly gifted at?" Emma was quiet for a long time. Outside, the base was coming alive, personnel changing shifts, vehicles starting, the mechanical sounds of military efficiency. "You ever kill someone close enough to see their face?" she asked finally. Lawson nodded slowly. "CQB and Ramadi, close enough to smell the guy." "And after?" "Nightmares for a while. Then they faded." "Mine didn't fade," Emma said. "They accumulated, every face, every shot, until I couldn't close my eyes without seeing them." She looked at Lawson directly. "I was good at it, really good. And that's what scared me, how easy it became. How the math made it clean. How I could reduce human lives to range and windage. So you walked away. So I tried to. Tonight showed me that you can't really walk away. You just pause. And when it's necessary, it's all still there, waiting. Is that a bad thing? That you can protect people when needed? It's a dangerous thing, because it means I'm always one crisis away from becoming someone I'm not sure I like very much. Lawson absorbed that. For what it's worth, the person I saw tonight, she saved my life, saved all our lives. That person is someone I respect deeply, even if she's someone I don't want to be, especially then, because you did it anyway. Emma didn't have a response to that. They finished their coffee in silence as the sun began to rise over the mountains, the same mountains where 17 men lay in snow that would cover them until spring thaw. At 0600, Morse found her again. Cordell, my office. Now. The intelligence officer's workspace was cramped. Organized chaos maps, reports, a whiteboard covered in operational notes. Morse gestured to a chair, closed the door. I'm recommending you for a Bronze Star, she said, without preamble. I decline. You can't decline a recommendation. Then I'll decline the medal if it's awarded. Morse's expression hardened. Listen to me carefully, Cordell. What you did last night was exceptional. 17 enemy combatants eliminated with perfect precision under extreme conditions. That level of skill could save countless lives if properly employed. I'm properly employed as a translator. You're wasted as a translator. That's my choice to make. Is it? Morse pulled up a file on her computer. Your contract with DoD has a clause about operational necessity. If your command deems your skills critical to mission success, they can reassign you regardless of your preferences. Emma felt ice settle in her stomach. You're threatening to force me back into a sniper role. I'm informing you of the reality. You're too valuable to waste on translation work when we're critically short on qualified counter-snipers. This is exactly why I went contractor instead of staying military. So I'd have autonomy. Contractors still answer to military command in theater. Morse's tone softened slightly. Look, I understand you have reservations. I've read your file, including the psych evaluations. I know about Kandahar, about the boy. I get that it weighs on you. Then let me carry that weight in peace. Can't do that, not when your skills could prevent other soldiers from carrying their own weight. Morse leaned back. You have 72 hours. Think about it. Talk to whoever you need to talk to. But understand that this isn't going away. You proved something last night, Cordell, and the military doesn't let that kind of capability sit idle. Emma stood. Is that all, ma'am? One more thing. Morse's expression shifted, became almost sympathetic. I know you don't want to hear this, but what you did last night, that was heroic, and you should be proud of it, even if it scares you. Emma left without responding. Christmas Day at the base was surreal. Someone had strung lights in the chow hall, and there was an attempt at festive meal service. Turkey that tasted like cardboard, stuffing from a box, cranberry sauce from a can. But people smiled, shared stories about home, tried to manufacture normalcy. Emma sat alone until the team filtered in, one by one, gravitating toward her table without discussion. It wasn't deliberate, just the natural magnetism of shared trauma, of having survived something together. Merry Christmas, Webb said, setting down his tray. Merry Christmas, Emma replied automatically. Fisher joined them, then Hayes, then Davis. Lawson came last, carrying a small package wrapped in brown paper. This came in the supply drop, he said, handing it to Emma. Care package, your sister, I think. Emma opened it carefully. Inside, homemade cookies, a letter, and a small snow globe with a tiny Oregon lighthouse. She picked up the snow globe, shook it, watched plastic snow swirl. She doesn't know, Emma said quietly. About last night. She still thinks I'm just translating. You want to tell her? Connor asked. I don't know how to tell her that I broke my promise to her. What promise? Emma set down the snow globe. When I changed jobs, I promised her I was done killing people, that I'd found a safer path, that she didn't need to worry anymore. She laughed without humor. So much for that. You saved lives, Lawson said. There's honor in that. Is there? Or is that just what we tell ourselves to feel better about the math? The table fell silent. Then Hayes spoke up, surprising everyone. My dad was a cop, he said. 30 years, never fired his weapon on duty. Used to tell me that he was grateful for that the best cops were the ones who never had to shoot anyone. He looked at Emma. But he also told me that if the day came when he had to, he'd do it without hesitation. Because protecting people was the job, not avoiding hard choices. That's different, Emma said. Is it? You spent 18 months trying to be the person who never had to shoot anyone. That's admirable. But last night, you became the person who could shoot to protect others. That's not breaking a promise. That's evolution. Emma wanted to argue, but the words wouldn't come. She looked around the table at these men who'd seen her at her most lethal, who now looked at her with something between awe and concern. I don't want gratitude, she said finally. I don't want medals or recognition or reassignment to sniper teams. I just want to go back to being invisible. Too late, Fisher said. Not unkindly. You're visible now. We see you. That's what I'm afraid of. Davis reached across the table, placed something next to her tray, a patch. The team's unit insignia, with Christmas 2024 embroidered underneath. We don't have medals to give, he said. But we wanted you to have this, so you know that whatever else happens, you're one of us now. Not as a translator, as part of the team. Emma picked up the patch, traced the embroidery with her finger. It was a small thing, unofficial, but it felt heavier than any medal. I don't know if I can accept this, she said. Why not? Because accepting it means accepting what I did. And I'm not sure I'm ready for that. Then carry it until you are, Lawson said. No pressure, no expectations. Just know that it's yours if you want it. The conversation shifted after that. Someone told a story about a disastrous Christmas back home, which led to another story, then another. The weight lightened slightly, became bearable. But Emma felt the patch in her pocket, a small anchor to a reality she'd tried to escape. Later, walking back to her quarters in the dark, Connor fell into step beside her. You okay? No, but I will be. That's surprisingly honest. I'm too tired to lie convincingly. They walked in silence for a bit. Then Connor said, You know what bothers me most about tonight? What? How good you still are. 18 months away, and you didn't miss a single shot. That's not just skill, that's... He struggled for words. That's who you are, Emma. And you can fight it, deny it, run from it. But it's not going away. I know. So what are you going to do? Emma stopped walking, looked up at the sky. Clear now, stars visible despite the base lights. Somewhere up there, the same stars shone on Oregon, on her sister's house, on the life she'd imagined building after this deployment. I'm going to finish my contract, she said. 6 more months of translation work, and then I'm going to go home and figure out how to be someone who's good at killing people, but chooses not to. And if they don't let you, then I'll fight that battle when it comes. Connor nodded, seemed satisfied with that answer. For what it's worth, I think you're handling this better than most would. I'm barely handling it at all. Exactly. Better than most. They reached her quarters. Emma paused at the door. Thank you, she said, for earlier, for staying close. That's what friends do. Is that what we are? Yeah. We're friends who've seen each other's worst days and stuck around anyway. Connor smiled. Merry Christmas, Emma. Merry Christmas. Inside, her quarters were cold. Impersonal, just a bunk, a footlocker, a small desk. Emma sat on the bed, pulled out the patch the team had given her. She thought about 17 men who wouldn't see tomorrow, about families receiving notifications, about the calculations she'd made with such cold precision. And she thought about the team still breathing, still whole, because she'd made those calculations. The math was terrible. But it was also true. Emma placed the patch on her desk, next to the snow globe from her sister. 2 different versions of herself, side by side. She didn't know how to reconcile them yet, but she had 6 months to try. The official report was filed at 1,400 hours on December 26th. It was professional, concise, stripped of emotion. Translator Cordell provided critical fire support during enemy contact, successfully neutralizing hostile positions and enabling team extraction. Performance exceeded expectations. Recommend commendation. No mention of 17 bodies. No mention of 23 minutes. No mention of the way she'd moved through enemy positions like mathematics made flesh. Just fire support. Performance exceeded expectations. Emma read it in Morse's office, standing at attention, face neutral. This satisfy you? Morse asked. Yes, ma'am. It's a lie of omission, you know. Doesn't capture what actually happened. It captures what needs to be captured. Morse signed the report, filed it electronically. Your 72 hours are up, Cordell. Have you thought about my offer? I have. And I decline. You understand the consequences? We can reassign you regardless. You can try. I'll fight it. And even if you win, you'll have a sniper who resents being forced back into the role. Is that really what you want? Morse studied her for a long moment, then sighed. No, it's not. She leaned back in her chair. You're making a mistake, Cordell. Your skills could save lives. They did save lives. 7 of them. That should be enough. It's never enough. Then you and I have different definitions of enough. Morse waved her hand dismissively. Fine. You're dismissed. Return to translation duties effective immediately. As Emma turned to leave, Morse added, But Cordell, your name's in the system now. Tagged for rapid response if another crisis occurs. You may have walked away, but you're still on call. Understood. Outside, the base had returned to routine operations. The Christmas decorations were coming down. People moved with purpose, focused on their jobs, the drama of 2 nights ago already fading into just another mission story. Emma found Lawson near the motor pool, checking equipment. It's done, she said. Morse is letting me stay translator. Good. He looked relieved. Though I'll admit, part of me wanted you to accept. Would have been nice having someone that's skilled on Overwatch. You'll survive without me. We barely survived with you. But yeah, we'll manage. He extended his hand. Thank you for everything. Emma shook it. Just doing my job. That's what Hayes said. Just a translator. We both know that's not accurate anymore. Maybe not, but it's what I need it to be. Lawson nodded, understanding. Fair enough. Take care of yourself, Cordell. She spent the rest of the day processing paperwork, updating translation protocols, doing the mundane work that had defined her last 18 months. It felt strange, anticlimactic, like trying to wear old clothes that no longer fit quite right. That evening, Connor found her in the linguistics office, working through a stack of documents. You're really doing it, he said. Going back to normal. Attempting to. How's it going? Terribly. But I'm committed to the attempt. He sat on the edge of her desk. I talked to Morse. She told me about the rapid response tag. I figured she would. You okay with that? Emma set down her pen, considered. I don't know. Part of me wants to rage against it, fight for complete autonomy. But another part. She trailed off. Another part knows you'd respond anyway if it was necessary, Connor finished. Yeah. So the tag just makes official what was always true. She looked at him. Does that make me a hypocrite? Wanting to walk away but knowing I can't really? Makes you human. Complicated. Most of us are. Most of us aren't capable of killing 17 people in 23 minutes. True. But most of us also aren't capable of choosing not to, even when we could. You're choosing, Emma. That matters. Did it? Emma wasn't sure anymore. The line between choosing and defaulting felt blurry, uncertain. 3 days later, during her routine check-in with the team, Hayes pulled her aside. My wife sent me something, he said, pulling out his phone. Wanted you to see it. He showed her a photo. Christmas morning, his family around a tree, his kids opening presents. Normal, happy, alive. She doesn't know how close it was, Hayes said quietly. Doesn't know that I almost didn't make it home, but you do. And I want you to know that these kids, he pointed to his children's faces, they have their dad because of you. That's real. That's measurable. Whatever philosophical crisis you're having about your role, remember that. Emma stared at the photo, at those young faces that would grow up with their father, would have memories and moments that only existed because of choices made on a frozen mountain. Thank you, she managed. No, thank you. The helicopter that had extracted them was being serviced when Emma walked past the hangar. On impulse, she approached it, touched the cold metal hull. This machine had carried them away from death. But she'd been the one who made that possible. The math was still terrible. But it was also true. Later that week, a package arrived. No return address, just her name. Inside, 17 small stones, smooth and dark, each marked with a simple line. Nothing else. No note, no explanation. Emma understood immediately. Someone had gone back to that mountain, had marked each position, had created this. Memorial? Reminder? Accusation? She spread the stones on her desk, arranged them in a line. 17 lives, 17 calculations, 17 permanent additions to the weight she carried. She could throw them away. Probably should. Instead, she placed them in a small cloth bag, tucked it into her footlocker. Not visible, but present. Not forgotten, but contained. On her final night at the base before rotating home, Emma climbed to the observation tower. Below, the camp was quiet, peaceful. The mountains stretched in all directions, indifferent to human drama. She pulled out the patch the team had given her, the one with Christmas 2024 embroidered on it, studied it in the starlight. Somewhere out there, 17 families were grieving. 17 absences that would echo through years, through holidays, through all the moments that would now never happen. She'd caused that, made those choices, created those absences. But she'd also created presences, 7 men still breathing, still living, still coming home to families who'd almost lost them. The math was impossible. There was no equation that balanced those scales, no calculation that made it clean. Emma pinned the patch to the inside of her jacket, where no one else could see it. Not a badge of honor, not a declaration of pride, just a reminder that she was capable of both terrible precision and terrible choice, that the rifle never forgot, but neither did she. That being just a translator was both true and false, both chosen and forced, both liberation and lie. She descended from the tower as snow began to fall again, soft and silent, covering the base in gentle white. Silent night, holy night. All was calm, but Emma Cordell knew the truth. Calm was temporary.